Welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report, and we have some specials on for you. Later on in the third hour, John Moore will be joining us, and the bottom of the hour we'll be joined by Bob Allerton, two prepper experts, so it'll be good to have a dialogue and expand these lessons. And coming up, we have some major updates coming up here later on this week. We're going to have our IRS expert coming on Wednesday. And you don't want to miss this. It's going to be extremely important to understand exactly what's going on with the IRS current moves, the Obamacare, the use of IRS actions, etc. Major updates, and of course the big sale is gone this week, 7 for Heaven sale. So I want to continue on with some of our nutraceuticals. Ryan will be joining us shortly so you can understand exactly how to use them. If you have questions about the protocols, if you're a customer, all you have to do is purchase one product in the last 6 months, and you get access to the codes, so you can do not only access to the live stream channel, all of our wellness conditions, and of course consultations. We will answer quick questions for people that are non-customers, but we don't get into depth until we see that they're actually supporting what we're doing here at Nutrimedical and at the Nutrimedical Report, as well as Clay and Iron, our other website. So to start off with, we talked about prostate flow. We also have Power Methyl B12, which goes along 5,000 micrograms of B12. The B12 is amazingly important, and you need a thing called intrinsic factor to absorb it in the stomach. It's one of the most common deficiencies we find. If you look at people over age 60, 60% of the population are B12 deficient. It'll often show up with neurological symptoms before they end up with megakaryocytes, which are an abnormal blood cell in their peripheral blood smear, if they review their blood with a pathologist. So B12 test, the test is called a Schilling test. It's an older test, it's fairly accurate, but very few people are going to go through a Schilling test to find out if they have B12 deficiency. So even a peripheral blood smear may not pick it up. Power C+, this is the only neutral vitamin C in the world. Calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, ascorbate with Viagra and black pepper extract to increase absorption. It will not cause diarrhea. It will raise your electron density in your cytochromes. So when you add things like electron density there, then you have CoQ10, the sprocket on the bicycle to power the engine of your cells, your mitochondria. Your increased fuel and energy source with things like our Cognition Plus, our what's called IBS Care, which is a propionyl carnitine, mitochondrial catalyst, mitocarnitine. CoQ10, we talked about CoQ10. I recommend the CoQ10, which is the only non-crystallizing CoQ10. I recommend that one you bite and hold under the tongue every 3 to 4 hours if you have any real reason for either mental or physical or heart related to myopathy, chronic pain syndromes, cardiomyopathy, hypertension, or protection of the brain. The background is CoQ10 ubiquinol. I recommend you take both. The CoQ10 ubiquinol is very well absorbed. And B12 folic acid, really important for energetics. The Omega Supreme. Oh, I guess we have Ryan.
I am. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We're ready to roll. We're kind of going back from Z to A, talking about nutraceuticals, and we'll throw some protocols in there. We're now into fatty acids, and I want people to understand if they second guess and try to get a fatty acid from another competitor, they're really wasting their time, because we have the most high-powered, most potent Omega Supreme fatty acids processed on a ship in Norway. So if you bite into them, there's absolutely no fishy taste. You say, this isn't fish oil. It doesn't taste fishy. You don't want rancid oils. You don't want rancid oils. You want an also high enough concentration of omega-3 and omega-6. According to Dr. Barry Sears and other experts on fatty acids, our fatty acid concentration is so out of whack, it's literally 50 to 1 out of whack, promoting inflammation with omega-3 fatty acids, way out of balance with the omega-6. So the omega-6 are far more inflammatory, pro-inflammatory, and you want those things like peanut oil, things such as many other oils that are present in animal meat, especially animal meat that's been fed corn or GMO food, has very high concentrations. For example, the meat of animals has virtually no conjugated linoleic acid, no omega fatty acids. If it's grass-fed, it's going to have a lot more omega-3 fats and not the omega-6. So let's talk about Omega Supreme krill, the only krill oil, that has astaxanthin, which is one of the most powerful antioxidants to protect your blood vessels in your brain. Then we got Omega cod liver liquid, which is omega, absolutely amazing, and the Omega 369, which we still carry. Now, let's talk about all the omega fatty acids. And I tell people, if you're not omega heavy in your supplement program on top of a diet, and what I've chosen from just looking and studying everything is I eat Atlantic fish, not Pacific, things like halibut and salmon, or from South America like Chilean salmon. That's Atlantic salmon, actually transplanted down there. And I have a vegetarian diet. I've just turfed all the meat and all the sugar. So tell us about omega fatty acids and why ours are so superior. Like omega cod liver liquid is even head-to-head better than CoQ10 and then the HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors, the very toxic, nasty, crazy drugs that doctors push. In fact, I recently talked to a doctor who says, I put all my diabetics on such and such. I said, why would you do that? And he says, because it reduces blood inflammation of the artery walls. I said, are you crazy? I said, there's lots of other things you can do in diet. Why would you give this drug? I said, it's not even proven that it's really good for lowering cholesterol, and it can interfere with CoQ10 and energetics and do all kinds of other bad things. You know, it really is irritating. It's like I said in the first hour, Obama, and this is the comments by Putin, Obama is like negotiating with a pigeon that knocks over all the players on the board game, then craps on the board and struts around like he won the game. And that's what, unfortunately, most doctors act like. They act like, because I've got a white coat, because I have a stethoscope hanging around my neck so I can hear your sounds in your chest, I'm somehow like a demigod. And I'm thinking, no, you're not. And you don't know the biochemistry, toxicology, intermediate metabolism. You don't even know what nutrients are depleted by the drugs you give people, or what pathways are blocked and cause serious new health problems, especially because the population is genetically polymorphic. You don't know the genetics of your patient. You have no idea of the organic acids and how they've changed because you've given drug A, B, and C. I mean, really they have the sine qua non capacity to be what I call monumental morons. And, I like the term from Dr. Sherry Rogers, dino docs. I call them toxic docs, which I think is more appropriate because they're not just dinosaurs. They just salt everybody with toxins and chase them into the grave. You know, how many senior homes have less residents on less than 12 drugs? I don't know. I think it's probably anomalous. Unless you have 12, you don't even get to get in the doors. You know? I think it's stupid. And, how many of these people have genetic tests? Not. And how many people do they do a fatty acid analysis when they're looking at heart disease? Not. Just adding Omega Supreme. This is a proven study. Lowers heart disease risk and stroke and deep vein thrombosis and any other vascular event happening by more than 50%. We're not talking about changing their diet, stopping them from smoking, doing anything positive, even stopping them from drinking. Just increasing their omega fatty acids to what we call a pharmaceutical level. You're taking, let's say, 1 to 2 soft gels twice a day, depending on your body size, of Omega Supreme. That's remarkable, isn't it? Just one thing.
It really is. And these are the fundamental building blocks of the cell. So sometimes some people are like, I don't get it. I don't understand why fish oil has anything to do with, like you're saying, us cardiovascular disease progression. It's the building blocks of our cells. So if you can deliver these clean, great fuels or building blocks so that the cells then are operating like they should, that's what changes all this progression that's going on at the most fundamental level. And so, a lot of people know and are aware that there's fish oils they should be taking. They may not know the statistics on how well they can help prevent things like a cardiovascular event, but
or the quality. They meant to make sure it's not rancid,
that's
too.
What I wanted to get to. Make sure that you know what you're dealing with quality-wise, which, these things should all be really well analyzed for heavy metals, PCBs, the peroxides, the what they call anisotine values, which is the precursor to oxidation of the oils, as well as the potencies. And making sure that you're not just being caught off guard by slick marketing out there in the marketplace where you go, my doctor said, take 1,000 milligrams of fish oil. But unfortunately, many of the products that are labeled out there, they appear like you're getting 1,000 milligrams, but you're not getting the true EPA and DHA content that you need.
Not at all. Ours are amazing. We'll continue this when we come back, and we're going to move on to discuss amazing nutraceuticals like our Nutri-Trala. I would say one of our top ones for years, Nutri-Trala. You can't just do it. You gotta have the brains. You gotta have the brains to do evil properly. Otherwise, you kind of suck at that too. Welcome back, and a little humor on the break here. Let's talk about the omega fatty acids some more. We've got the whole range: Omega Supreme Krill, Omega Cod Liver Liquid. I mix it directly into my drink in the morning with Glycemics, Ageless, Energize, and Life Support. It's amazing. And by the way, I give it to my daughter, and I mix in some other powders for her, quote, syrup, I call it, and she gets a little glass of that every day. Let's talk about these fatty acids and then move on to Nutritrala, which is one of my favorites. It's the only long-acting alpha-lipoic acid that will recycle all your fat and water-soluble antioxidants in the world. There's no other comparison. No other company has this. This is it. So let's talk about the omega fatty acids first.
Well, the omega cod liquid is really a great thing because of how easy it is to take in just one small teaspoon of using it. You know, you're getting this blend of omega-3s of 363 milligrams of EPA and 545 milligrams of DHA per single teaspoon, along with vitamin D and vitamin A. And as you talk about, the phospholipid kind of component that you're getting in this material is just phenomenal. But it's an easy, smooth-tasting formulation that's easy to mix into anything. It's got a little natural orange essence in there, and so it mixes right into anything very, very easily. The other ones, like the Omega Supreme Krill, this is a very unique substance, okay? Obviously, one of the smallest animals on the planet. Basically, what you can yield from there is phospholipids, high phospholipid content without having to use any chemical extraction solvents to create this formula. So it leaves the phospholipids intact. Inside that phospholipid, you have your EPA and DHA content, but you also have something very unique, a very powerful antioxidant known as astaxanthin. And astaxanthin is such a unique molecule, but when you take it in and ingest it orally, it can work throughout the body in its ability to basically quench free radical damage that's going on in all different areas. The Omega Supreme EPA and DHA is the highest potency single capsule of EPA and DHA you're going to find in the marketplace. You have Nutrifos, where you're going to deliver 100% purified phosphatidylcholine complex, which is quite unique. So if organs are kind of deteriorating and breaking down, they have a much higher need to move away from fish oil and more into specifically the phospholipid complex of what you have in there, which is phosphatidylcholine, ethanolamine, phosphatidyl-inositol, and it's a complete blend that helps you to rebuild the structure of a lot of the organ tissue.
These phospholipids act as a primary signaling. We've known about these phospholipids and these sugars, these special sugars. They're present also in these oils. So when you get Omega Supreme Krill, when you get Omega Cod Liver Liquid and Nutrifos and Neurogen, which is algae-based, you're rebuilding the signaling mechanism in your cells. See, it's a signal-to-noise ratio. Aging is basically building up bad signal, a lot of noise, and then your genes don't get switched on and off correctly. That's what makes it so important. Let's talk about Nutritrala next. I take one at least twice a day. You can take one 3 times a day. It's amazing. This is one of the most important nutraceuticals you can take to slow the aging process. I know a lot of people expecting a magic potion of a whole bunch of one thing. No. It's a spectrum that has to be individually adjusted. You can adjust it with a QRMA. You can adjust it with functional medicine testing like Genova Metametrics, Great Plains Laboratory. We've got all these directors on McGuffey Labs. You can measure all these tests. They'll tell you what's deficient and what you need to adjust to make sure that you stay on track. For example, if you're going to take vitamin D, like our MyCell D3, you got to make sure your magnesium's up, and your vitamin A and vitamin K. If your vitamin A, D, E, and K, which is an Omega Cod Liver Liquid, you're going to get in trouble if you've got low magnesium. You'll actually create a magnesium problem because you have relative deficiency. So let's talk about Nutritrala. This is super powerful for protecting against radiation and for X-rays and for just living in the toxic world we live in.
Well, the benefits of alpha-lipoic acid are enormous. There's been lots of studies. Here's the big problem with alpha-lipoic acid, which is the main ingredient here in Nutritrala. The problem is it has a very short half-life in the body. 28 minutes, that's its half-life. So within an hour, hour and a half, it's really doing no good for many people, just like a lot of antioxidants. But when you use Nutritrala, this is a patented controlled release mechanism that extends that half-life to almost 80 minutes. And so you bathe the tissues for much longer periods of time, 4 or 5 hours, and that allows the nutrient, alpha-lipoic acid, to truly do the work that it's been shown to do in a lot of the research studies. Not only is it very beneficial on things like blood sugar levels, hemoglobin A1Cs, When those are increasing, it's a wonderful thing to use. But also when there's damage going on in neuropathies, it's a very important substance to use. And then it's a recycler, as you were talking about. This is such a critical substance because it's known as the king of antioxidants. So when you take Nutritrala, it actually is stimulating the recycling of vitamin C, E, CoQ10, and one of the most powerful antioxidants in our body, glutathione. So Nutritrala can be used in so many different ways and so many different protocols. It really, for most Americans, and really around the globe for the increase of toxicity and so forth, and the blood sugar issues that almost everybody's facing, it really could be a good one for most people to use on a regular basis.
Yeah, it really is important. A lot of people worry, well, what about dementia? What about heart disease? What about carotid arteries? You can do all kinds of fancy tests. You can do a stress EKG. You can do a carotid B-scan ultrasound. You can do a NEVA arterial and venous study. The fact is that lipid analysis, and you can do those lipid analysis through Genova Metametrics, where they do a nuclear magnetic spectroscopy, or even better still, what's called a plasma electrophoresis. And if you look at the lipid fractions, especially VLDL3, HDL, etc., you'll notice that if you take the proper phospholipids, proper omega fatty acids, it normalizes. And of course, we add to that regime Neovasc, which is the lowest rate of flushing. You can stop flushing completely if you use one of two things. You can start off as Power C Plus, 1 or 2 capsules a day is all you need to do to stop the flushing. And the other, of course, is Allergon. Allergon will stop the flushing from the niacinamide, which can be a factor, as well as the possible use of Aller Block. So that's really important. Ryan, let's look at some of the other really powerful formulas. One of my favorites, of course, is Nutriodine, which I want to tell people there's no comparison with the Thyroid Shield out there, as Lugol's iodine, Dr. Brownstein's stuff. All the stuff's garbage. We have the only Tesla-activated diatomic iodine in the world. It is the most powerful of all our antipathogenics, along with our Allicin Med, Alamax, and our Silver 100, which, by the way, will not turn you blue because it's only in the ionic states using teeny-weeny dosages, which literally is 1/3 the dosage by the Environmental Protection Agency that should be in your food. So let's move up to, of course, also I designed NutriDefense, which has the most powerful antioxidant, anhydrous catechin, polyphenol, the turkey tail, beta-glucan for immune stimulation, and IP6 to stop free iron, as well as immune boosting to kill all viruses and bacteria, encapsulated viruses. Let's talk about NutriComplete. Now, it's coming out of back order. When will that be out? Is it the next few days, Ryan? NutriComplete?
NutriComplete. Why don't you hold that thought? Let me see what I can find for an update for that to get a more specific date. But
you're going to be back on this Thursday anyway, so you'll have information before then. NutriComplete is the best reds and grease formula, and they're so picky with some of the components like the goji berry. That's why things like that go into back order, because we have supplier issues when we're dealing with being really picky at our manufacturing facility to make sure that everything is absolutely the top notch available. And it's coming out of back order right here in the next few days. Back in a moment. Just another way so people won't have to swallow pills. Welcome back, and by the way, all of the hours are open lines if you have questions on any of the nutraceuticals or protocols. And Ryan, we have stellar, I call 7-star nutraceuticals. These are absolutely amazing. We mentioned NutriComplete's coming out. We have mentioned that Samethyl's coming out of back order. It's good. Neurogen, this is one of my favorites because the research now has shown that there's several nutraceuticals that are particularly stars at protecting the brain. DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, which is our Neurogen. Acetyl L-carnitine, which is in our Cognition Plus, right? And that's very brain protective. And of course, the importance of taking the phospholipids as well to protect the brain, and a thing called CoQ10 Supreme Ubiquinol. It turns out CoQ10 levels are tied to brain destruction, vascular disease, myopathies. If anybody even has myofascial pain, repetitive motion injury like carpal tunnel syndrome, or tarsal tunnel syndrome, or cubital tunnel syndrome, or any kind of interfascial like thoracic outlet, the CoQ10 levels are always low. Magnesium levels are always low. And the energetics, of course, tied directly to, it's like the sprocket on the bicycle that translates the energy from your ATP and NADH. You can have acetyl L-carnitine and the propionyl L-carnitine, all these other fancy things. But if you don't have enough CoQ10, one of the most brain protective is DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, and this is an algae-based, the Neurogen. But we also have it in our Nutrifos, in our Omega Cod Liver Liquid. We have it in our Omega Supreme Krill, very high concentrations, and of course also in our Omega Supreme, really, really high concentrations of DHA, which, by the way, has been the law for 30-some years in Japan in baby formulas. Every senior should be on DHA preventively so they don't lose their myelin sheath and lose their blood-brain barrier. Anybody who's the blood-brain barrier breaks down because this is part of the barrier, the DHA. So let's talk about Neurogen for a minute.
Well, DHA is one of these really critical components that if we go deficient, we see it in pregnancies where oftentimes after there's a birth of a child, the mother could be kind of sucked dry of DHA, and that could lead to a lot of challenging issues, including things like postpartum depression that you certainly don't want to have to face. But anytime there's this a neurological challenge and so forth, DHA is one of those critical components that you'd like to increase, and so protecting the brain and having enough DHA is critical. So Neurogen is a great way to put it in there, and also it's a unique source, an algae-based source, so that makes it very unique compared to many others in the marketplace.
Exactly. The next is Neovasc, and I mentioned earlier it's half the flush rate of the doctor-prescribed niacinamide, but I found a way using Power C Plus, Omega, basically Allerblock and Allergon to block it. And we don't need Power C, but it'll block any flushing from the Neovasc. Extremely important for osteoarthritis, for lowering triglycerides or fatty liver in the liver, for stimulating and increasing the levels along with Omega Cod Liver Liquid, which is one of the best stimulants for high-density cholesterol, the good cholesterol, what's called the large particle HDL cholesterol, not the small particle, which is the bad one. So Neovasc, really, really important. Anything special about our Neovasc because it's got the best time release, the least amount of flushing compared to even the medical drug that's
that's probably the special part about it is the flush rate. You're looking at a dramatically improved way to deliver niacin into the system without the negativity.
And by the way, if you add the Power C, it's gone. You just don't get it at all. Next is nattokinase, which I tell anybody who's got hypertension, diabetic, vascular disease of any kind, or even family history, you should be on nattokinase. And it lowers the C-reactive protein, it lowers the PI1 or plasminogen activator inhibitor, it lowers blood viscosity dramatically. And I'll often add it to lumbrokinase or other enzyme if someone has a proved vascular issue that they were concerned about. But nattokinase, everybody with hypertension, diabetes, vascular disease, deep vein thrombosis, any of these things, even symptoms of magnesium deficiency because they're going to have vasospasm, nattokinase. Tell us about it, because this is the research from Dr. Sumi in Japan, Dr. Ralph Holsworth here in America, and it's from the natto bean and the Bacillus subtilis. It is very important for heart protection and vascular protection.
Well, we want to keep the, if you will, the fluid in the system running smoothly. It's like motor oil in the engine. You don't want it gunky and sticking together and causing any kind of problem. So when you think about nattokinase, what you think about is sort of like it makes sure that the fluid is moving around your body effectively and not looking to clump up, and cause any kind of problems that could be associated with eventually things like a heart attack or stroke. And exactly. So nattokinase is just a natural enzyme that allows that to occur.
Now, next I mentioned earlier that if you're taking vitamin D, we have the 5,000 IU soft gel. We also have the 1,000 IU per drop Micelle Ultra D3 drops. I tell people if you're going to take vitamin D, make sure you're taking magnesium, vitamin A, which is the Omega Cod Liver Liquid, and vitamin K2, which is the full vitamin K2. If you're deficient in any of these things, including zinc, which is going to be in your Vitamineral Max, you're going to not have full activity of your vitamin D. And in fact, the vitamin D will actually cause a relative deficiency of, say, magnesium. So Micelle D3, if people think even if I have a tan, I got vitamin D levels are okay, we find almost universally anybody with a chronic illness, anybody with diabetes, anybody with previous history of cancer, It's amazing how low their vitamin D levels are. And even if they have a cancer growing, they've done volumetric studies and shown that cancer stops growing when you raise their vitamin D levels. We also have myco D2, which is 5 different mushrooms with ergothioneine. We call it oncomycin myco D2. But the mycel D3, tell us all about it, because this is the highest quality vitamin D3 you can get. And what makes it so potent? Why is it so important to get vitamin D? Because you don't know until you do a blood level. You can do it at LabCorp or Quest Labs. Your doctor, if they measure your D3 level and you realize, oh my gosh, it's in my boots, you need to take some, then retest it, because after a while you're going to drop your dosage. You won't need to take, say, 2 or 3 twice a day. You may only need to take 1. But you want to know where your level's at before you go crazy. And if your magnesium's low, you got to get it up, and you got to get your vitamin A, and A, D, E, and K. And you're going to get that if you take omega cod liver liquid, especially, and our phospholipids like our omega supreme, omega supreme krill oils. These are really important.
Yeah, I mean, when people do get their D's, levels measured, they're going to find invariably that they're pretty low. Most people are deficient, and even though they might spend adequate time, or what they perceive as adequate time outside, they think that they're going to have adequate amounts of D3, and it's just not the case. And so it's very easy, as you say, and inexpensive to raise up your D3 levels, but it's such a critical thing for the immune system to function properly. Would be number one. The other aspect is things like bone building. Without adequate amounts of D3, then it can be a higher risk for having, poor bone mineral density.
And by the way, unless men test, they don't know. What I often will tell people is they won't go for a DEXA scan. Contact me. You can go to Lab Testing Direct. We're going to have Lab Testing Direct people on. LabTestingDirect.com. It's a urine test, and they look for 2 breakdown subunits of collagen that's in your bones, deoxypyridinium and pyridinoline. And these 2 molecules, that they show up in your urine because they pass right through the glomeruli, healthy kidneys, that means you're ripping your bones apart. And within 3 weeks of starting on our protocol to stop that, whether you're male or female, the first thing is a rebar, which is the collagen in your bones stops being ripped apart by vitamin K2, mycel D3, collagen max, tendon mender, joint performance, omega, the mountain red velvet, and of course we recommend vibrational exercises like the VibraCore, 3000, 5000, VibraSlim, etc. So next, mitothyroid. This is an amazing formula. I hear all the so-called pseudo-experts like Bronstein all think that they're experts on thyroid. If your doctor does not measure free reverse T3 along with free T3 and free T4, fire them, because they don't know what they're doing. And if they have an elevated ratio of reverse T3 to T3, it turns off your metabolism and your core body temperature will be low on a gerotherm thermometer. Your doctors, if they don't know this, family doctor, internal medicine, or specialist, fire them. Get a doctor that's a functional medicine doc that knows what they're doing through our Academy of Advancement in Medicine, Anti-Aging Medicine, or Environmental Medicine. Welcome, and by the way, when you take mitothyroid, you are going to get T4, you're going to get T3, you're going to get all of the cofactors for helping your thyroid heal. You're going to also help your peripheral thyroid. And then if you want to increase the release of the proteolin, which is the TRH molecule, and we've had experts on from Europe, and I'll possibly bring them back on the program, talking about the research in Italy and Switzerland on TRH, which is a very expensive molecule to buy. If you buy this in the pharmaceutical grade from Europe, you're going to pay dearly through the nose, but guess what? Your gut has tons of it. All you need is to take berberstatin and take our amazing nutraceuticals that lower insulin and leptin resistance, which is leptin metabolic. Those are the 2 key ones. And the third, of course, is diabetoline and biotin plus. But the key one is basically leptin metabolic and berberstatin. Take 2 berberstatin twice a day, 1 leptin metabolic in the morning, and your body starts to change the release of TRH, which is proteolin. It's the ancient peptide that actually regulates organogenesis in the fetus and in all organisms. We're not just talking about vertebrates. We're talking about fish, to humans, to birds. Every single vertebrate animal, every literally living animal on Earth has TRH in the embryonic form, even in the egg. That's how important this molecule is. So it's trace amounts in various organs of the body. It is the primary anti-aging hormone besides lengthening telomeres. And, of course, our telomere formula is anti-age max. And myco D2, which has ergothioneine, And we have, of course, the release of growth hormone, which is our micro dose, which is growth hormone, and supernox, which releases growth hormone. So mitothyroid has thyroid, adrenal, and hypothalamus. And by the way, whenever I give mitothyroid, I always tell people, take 1 capsule mitothyroid, possibly 2, if you have a big problem, long-standing and maybe thyromegaly, and take at least 1 capsule of adrenal support. If your problem is severe and we measure in the saliva that you have deficiency of DHEA and pregnenolone, we'll also add those as well. But that's based on testing. So let's talk about Minerals Plus. This is a formula complementary to Vitamin Mineral Max. It contains major trace minerals for energetic metabolism, for mood disorders like molybdenum, zinc, etc., copper. It has major minerals for regulating insulin resistance, chromium and vanadium. It's a really important kind of complementary formula to the Vitamin Mineral Max. Tell us what's in it and why. This is the TRAX amino acid chelate forms of these, and they're very good for diabetes, for mood disorders, etc. It's a very important formula, and it has also the trace elements like higher dosages of manganese, which is important. Without adequate manganese, vitamin A, your mitochondria don't work, because manganese and thiamine work together in your mitochondria.
And it also has trace elements like things like lithium, which oftentimes these kind of formulas, the mineral formulations, may be missing certain things like this.
Right.
What makes that really important is, you talk all the time about Keylor Max. And Keylor Max, is a very safe and effective way to help remove heavy metals from the body. But at the same time, it will start pulling some of what you'd like to have in there, certain minerals out of your body. One of those could be, what we know it can be, is lithium. And so,
lithium in low dosage is healthy. It's not unhealthy. The doctor dosages the doctors give lithium carbonate is stupid and toxic high doses. Low dosages of lithium in the proper form, like orotate, are healthy, just like low dosages of ionic silver, which are naturally in soil. In fact, all the research by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, by the EPA, shows that even when we give full dosages of silver 100, we're still less than a third of the dosages that should be in their food. Well, lithium, if it's in your water in the proper form in ionic state, or it's in food, it's helpful for maintaining brain chemistry and for also cytoprotection of your brain cells.
That's right.
So that's important to deal with that issue. And by the way, for God's sake, don't go to Youngevity and these other companies that say they have minerals. They don't have TRAX amino acid chelate. They got soil minerals that are 50 million year old plants with tellurium and all kinds of heavy metals laced in there. You don't want to do that. You want pharmaceutical grade TRAX amino acid chelate, which are award winning. You do not want to have all kinds of ancient heavy metals in your vitamins. Next is Men's Max, which is going to release a male hormone. It's very common to see elevated levels of sex hormone binding globulin, especially in men. And if your SHBG, which by the way your doctor can test, if your sex hormone binding globulin is not elevated, and testosterone and androstenedione and dihydrotestosterone are normal, don't touch it. But if it's elevated, and your male hormone is we call low T, you need Men's Max. 4 capsules in the morning solves the problem, doesn't it?
Great formulation. There's so much of this where testosterone is not at a level that's adequate for people, but rather than running out and just getting a pharmaceutical roll-on and all that carries high risk for side effects for the person using it or the people that live with that person, what you really ought to contemplate is whether or not you can release what's known as the testosterone to make it free testosterone. Many times our bodies, what's deficient is the free testosterone. And so when you can use something like the Men's Max formulation, that's what it's been shown to do. It's a neat herbal blend, a complex herbal blend that's been shown to exactly do that, free up the testosterone. So therefore it can be used for the different tissues like we need it to be. And it's been a remarkable formula, very successful. People feel very good on it. So it's a neat option for people to have.
Absolutely. We have, of course, an array of going backwards from Z to A, and, of course, some of the other nutraceuticals we have are melatonin time release, which is one of the best released sleep formulas. Malignant Rest we use with all of our cancer and autoimmune patients. Malignant Block to block cancer and help protect your cells. Actually, Malignant Block, I take one every day, at least, to block the cancer transformation. Magnesium potassium citrate actually stops kidney and gallbladder stones and will raise your magnesium as well as potassium level. Magnesium potassium citrate. Magnesium glycinate malate, the very best form of magnesium you can take. It won't cause diarrhea and it goes directly in the Krebs cycle. Then we have Living Probiotic Ultra, the How Are You strain, the most powerful probiotic in the world. Our Living Probiotic Regular strain is the Result 6 strain from the Paris Institute, the Pasteur Institute. And then, of course, LipoFlush. I want to maybe end up with that one because if you're in the summer and you're trying to lift that last 5 or 10 pounds, this is going to flush the calories from little storage areas that your body says, I don't like that, and it helps to get the fat out. So LipoFlush, which is conjugated linoleic acid, which, by the way, if you had beef, for example, that was fed only grass, it has CLA. When it's fed GMO corn and other garbage, it has no conjugated linoleic acid, which is why people get fat eating what we call the way we treat our animals here in North America. So LipoFlush, and then of course we get into our life support, ageless, and we already mentioned leptin metabolic. Our lactose blocker, maybe mention that for a minute. Lactose blocker, one of our new products, the only neutral pH lactase enzyme. The vast majority of the population, 98% plus, cannot tolerate lactose. They get bowel spasms a couple hours after they eat ice cream. They've got milk intolerance. There's milk product in almost every kind of bread or thing you can imagine. And lactose, if it's not broken down by the digestive enzymes in your pancreas, in the neutral pH, the enzymes don't work at all. So this is the only neutral pH lactase enzyme in the world. So if you take a lactose blocker and you have milk products and you've had gut problems with irritable bowel, maybe all you got is a lactose intolerance. If you've done food allergy testing like IgE and IgG, say at Great Plains Lab or Genova Metametrics Labs through labtestingdirect.com, and you did a blood test and you say, I only got a few allergies and I eliminate them, but I still have problems, think of, number one, your top problems will identify, say, gluten tolerance, lactose intolerance. Extremely common, extremely easy to deal with, and if it's sneaking in your food, you can get rid of it. Tell us about our lactose blocker, because this is really an amazing product.
Absolutely. It's something that people need to be able to have protection against. And this is the only neutral lactase enzyme on the marketplace, meaning it's working in the small intestine. That's where 80% of the lactose is needing to be digested. But most of the formulations basically are working in the stomach. And so you're really not digesting it the way you should, and that leaves you open to creating more and more inflammation, which we know. If the gut is getting inflamed, then you're going to create more leaky gut. You're going to be more reactionary to more ingredients and more substances, even the healthy things. And so this is an opportunity to make sure that you're properly breaking down the foods that you're ingesting, and this is one of the key areas. And I know there's a lot of people out there also that are so frustrated that even the smallest amount of lactose creates a really pretty traumatic effect for them. And this just completely neutralizes, that challenge in the gut. So it's been a great addition to the NutriMed line.
Absolutely. Back on Thursday, hour number 2, Ryan. Getting all ready for a lot of relaxation, enjoyment over the Independence Day holiday, and of course coming up, believe it or not, tomorrow it is Canada Day, so the Canadians are all getting ready for the big sale coming up this weekend as well. Happy Canada Day tomorrow. We'll be back in just a moment with Hour 3. John Moore will be joined at the bottom of the hour with Bob Ellerton, our Turtle Top Sheller prepper guy, so we're going to have dual preppers dueling it out and telling us the best way to prep, and lots of geopolitical news. Big stories coming up this week. I got Dr. Mike Kaufman joining us in Hour 3 tomorrow on the latest on environmental issues with Tim Alexander. And on Wednesday, we're going to have our IRS expert. It's going to be an amazing program.